We're here to protect you and the ones that you love. It's a good feeling to know that our efforts aren't going unnoticed.
It actually brought tears to my eyes to know that we have this support.
You're welcome. I must just say you're welcome. It's stressful, but we're not going anywhere.
Welcome to another edition of Bucknell Baseball Through the Decade. I'm Todd Newcomb here in Bucknell, and I want to thank our sponsor, Geisinger, all they've done and have continued to do for folks in the area and the Bucknell community during this pandemic and everything they do health-wise to protect us all. I want to thank them for sponsoring this session. Tonight, we have a really special group. We have the most current decade of Bucknell baseball, 2010 through 2020, along with head coach Scott Heather and one of our current players, Tyler Rigot. Tyler is a sophomore pitcher on the squad from North Carolina, I believe, Charlotte, North Carolina. And we're excited to have him on board. And I'll introduce you all to our guest, and we'll get right to it. So our first alum on the call tonight is from the class of 2011. That's Doug Shribman. Doug was the team captain in 2011. He still holds the single-season records for home runs with 21 and total bases with 160. He also holds the career records in both those areas with 43 home runs and 385 total bases. He's listed among the top 10 in 9 additional offensive categories, including being second slugging percentage all-time, RBIs, and doubles. He was an All-Patriot League second-team selection in 2009, an All-Patriot League first-team selection in 2010 and 2011. He was the Patriot League Tournament Most Valuable Player in 2010. He was an academic All-Patriot League selection in 2011, and he was a COSIDA academic All-District first-team selection also in the year 2011. Our next guest is Joe Ogren from the class of 2016. He was the team captain in 2015 and 2016. Joe holds the school record after being hit by a pitch 39 times in his career. I don't think that's one many people want to have to hold, but Joe has hit a lot during his career. He's listed among the top 10 in 11 additional offensive categories, including being second in games started at 190 during and fourth in both doubles and walks. He was an All-Patriot League second-team selection in 2015 and 2016. He was an All-Patriot League first-team selection in 2014. He was a Patriot League Tournament Most Valuable Player in 2014 as well. He was an academic All-Patriot League selection in 2014, 2015, and 2016. And he was a COSIDA academic All-District 1 first-team selection in 2015 and 2016. Our next guest is Connor Van Hoose from the class of 2018. Connor ranks second all-time at Bucknell in both strikeouts with 238 and strikeouts per 9 innings at 11.04. He ranks fourth all-time with 2.55 career ERA. He threw a no-hitter against Lehigh in 2018. Couldn't have happened against a better opponent. He is an All-Patriot League first-team selection in 2017 and 2018. He was the Patriot League Pitcher of the Year in 2018. He was an All-ECAC second-team selection in 2017. He was an ABCA Rawlings All-Region second-team selection in 2017. And he was taken in the 8th round of the Major League Baseball draft by my favorite team, the New York Yankees, in 2018. And our last guest from the alumni side is Jeff Gottesman from the class of 2019, most recent graduate on the group tonight. He was a team captain in 2019. He ranks 5th all-time at Bucknell with 37 pitching starts and 8th with 170 strikeouts. He was an academic All-Patriot League selection in 2017 and 2018. You're going to hear a theme here. He was a Patriot League Baseball Scholar Athlete of the Year in 2018. He was the male Scholar Athlete overall for all sports in the Patriot League in 2018. He was a COSIDA academic All-District 1 first-team selection in 2018 and 2019, and a COSIDA academic All-American third-team selection in 2018 and a first-team selection in 2019. Got it done on both the classroom and the field, as many of the guys on the call did tonight. And as I mentioned, Tyler is a sophomore on our team, a pitcher from Charlotte, North Carolina. Coach, it's a great group. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, it's great to hear all the accolades. Sure was fun putting you guys in the lineup and giving you the ball out there on the mound, and really appreciate you guys coming and getting on the tonight and sharing your experiences. So we'll start with Doug. Take us back to the beginning. Tell us a little bit about how the recruiting process unfolded for you.
Yeah, sure thing.
Everything, but most of it.
Exactly. Well, when I was being recruited, I kind of just wanted to throw my name into as many possible schools as I could, and Bucknell being, the great academic school that it is, obviously with the cut. And then I started talking to you primarily. Coach Depew was a little bit more in the background at the time. Hadn't seen me play coming from outside of Boston. And, I sent you guys my information, my letter. I think I had a recommendation from a former player's father. I think that went a little bit of ways. And from there, the rest is history. I came to campus, had an unbelievable recruiting visit, one for the ages that, enticed me to come. The next morning, Coach Depew gave me the offer, and I was ready to come.
For sure. Ben Stoll and his father definitely gave you a great recommendation and really sold you as a good player. Thank God for that. Joey O.
Yeah, so I was playing summer baseball for a pretty good team, Tri-State Arsenal, and Coach Heather saw me in Flemington, New Jersey, and I remember I had a pretty good game. And I got a letter from Bucknell University, and I was like, what the heck is Bucknell University? I've never heard of it. And fortunate enough, my dad was talking to one of my good friends' father, who was an engineer, a very successful career-wise engineer. And he said, if Joe can go play baseball at Bucknell and get a chemical engineering degree, he absolutely has to. So, that enticed me to go see the campus. I really didn't know what to expect. And, when you pull through those gates at Bucknell, you kind of just fall in love right away, just by the beauty of the school. And, got to meet the coaches. Everything just felt very comfortable. Had a great visit as well. A lot of good memories there. And, just the more and more that I heard about just how great the school was, and just also seeing an opportunity of feeling like I could come in right away and step in and make an impact. It really was the perfect recipe for me to make a very easy decision to commit to Bucknell.
Great. I do remember that was a big day for us when you came to campus, and I'm glad you became a Bison. Connor, go ahead.
Yeah, my process was definitely early on. My sister, who is actually a few years older than me, visited Bucknell's campus when I was, I think, a freshman in high school. And she texted me and was like, you'd actually love this place. A couple months later, I was at a recruiting camp in Virginia and met Coach Knightsey. And then I think it was something like 3 weeks after I got my license when I was 16, you guys held a camp at Bucknell. And my parents just gave me the keys to the car, drove all the way up there, spent the week, fell in love with it right away. Knightsey's always joked that I committed when I was like a freshman just because he knew he wouldn't lose me to anyone else. But no, I same with everybody else, felt super comfortable when I got on campus, loved all the guys that I'm on the team. And it really, to me, seemed like the best fit of a, top athletics. We had a really good baseball schedule. I visited when the team was playing at Richmond and they were playing at UVA. So being a kid from Virginia, you really got to see them play a couple times, and it seemed like the best of both worlds for academics and baseball. So it was an easy fit for me.
Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, similar to Joe, I had no idea what Bucknell was, being from Charleston, South Carolina. I think Knightsey found me at a camp. I think it was a Princeton camp or something like that. And he came up to me and started talking to me, and I had, again, no idea what school it was, and was like, okay, continue the conversation. Went back, did my research, and then, got invited to come to the campus. So when I came to campus, I don't know, I wasn't really expecting to just automatically want to come here. But then my day and a half or so at the campus was really fun. Met all the guys, thought I'd fit in well. Did more research. I got a very good management school. Did kind of stuff that I wanted to do from an academic standpoint. So again, everything kind of just fell in line, and it worked out.
Great. I guess as a player, talk about kind of how you matured, on the field, day one until your senior season. We'll go right back to you, Jeff, and work our way back and forth with this. Tell us how the process of being at Bucknell helped you mature.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Every time you go from being a senior on your high school sports team to a freshman on a college sports team, an adjustment needs to be made. You're no longer the best player on the field. You no longer have all the answers. You really got to take a seat back and try and learn, right? And, your freshman year, you're out there trying to prove potentially like too much, like you're not really staying true to who you are as a player. And over the years, you start to kind of develop that, and that's probably how I changed the most from freshman year to senior year, just getting more comfortable and kind of understanding my role.
For sure. Connor?
Yeah, I think my freshman year was definitely a little more interesting because I had just had surgery, so I didn't get to play in the fall, and I didn't play most of the spring until the end. So for me, the big adjustment was just sitting back and watching baseball and being able to sort of take it in without being on the field. Obviously, Jeff said, being a high school kid like we all were, we all played a lot and never really just sat back and had to watch. It was definitely an adjustment there. But I think what it did give me was the opportunity to learn from some really great players. I think, the first name that comes to mind was Drake. I would sit there at every game and watch him pitch, and I think it was a mystery to me that he never, showed emotion on the mound. He was always the guy that no matter what was happening was kept his cool. I think that was one of the things that really helped me in my career because, there's lots of ups and downs in baseball, and one of the ways you can grow is to understand that even when, you're not your best, you can always come back and help the team in some way. So really learning from the guys above me from freshman year, senior year was huge.
Joe?
Yeah, kind of just reiterating what Jeff said mainly is, just like that, you hop into this new organization, right? And the only thing you think about is trying to prove yourself, and you quickly realize how much longer the season is too compared to high school ball, and that first year is really a big learning curve of learning how to realize time management, both on the field and off the field, and also learning how to care for your body because your body gets beat up in that season. So, really just trying to focus on routines and sticking with the process, and just keeping at it when times get tough because it's a long, grueling season. You just got to keep moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. When you play as hard as you do, it takes its toll on you for sure. I can remember seeing pictures of you after games and stuff like that, just dirty, every part of your body dirty, but you just loved playing out, being out there and playing and stuff. Doug, go ahead.
So, I was really lucky to follow a couple different really great classes and guys who took me under their wing and sort of taught me the way. When I was a freshman, guys like Mark Angelo and Jason Bursma, really took me in and showed me kind of what it takes to both be, a good player on the field and succeed off the field academically, and how to mix the two. And then even later on, the class right above me, guys like Andy Browse and Ben Yoder and Ben Allen and BJ La Rosa, they were kind of my big brothers at school. So they were always a year ahead of me, showing me, what it takes to succeed both on and off the class. On and off the field, excuse me. I took classes with, those guys throughout the years, and they would help me in the classroom. And then, like I said, I was kind of the little brother of that group. So they were always dragging me into the field house to get some extra swings in and telling me to do this or that, into the weight room, which wasn't always my favorite place to be. So they showed me kind of the way, and I was really fortunate for them, or to have them, throughout my college experience.
For sure. And it's kind of crazy. You became our all-time home run leader, and you only had 4 at-bats as a freshman, and talk about the lineup we had without putting you in it in terms of that. What was that experience like for you?
So, yeah, like you said, my first year, I traveled to every weekend, but primarily as a pitcher. I didn't really get any real at-bats until sophomore year, and I kind of knew that going into sophomore year that I had to show up early and make an impression because I didn't have a very long leash. And sitting for the entirety of the freshman year, I was able to sort of, like I said before, just watch some of those older guys, how they prepared, how they got ready. I could sit back a little bit and appreciate kind of the speed of the game and, what you needed to do, to really excel at that level. I think as some of the other guys said, in high school, you can kind of just go out there and be the best player on the field. When you get to the college level, it just takes that much extra work and dedication and time and effort and everything else. So it was really great to not have to worry about the actual on-field performance and just be able to watch it and kind of learn how to do it.
Absolutely. All right, I'll let Tyler ask the next question. We'll come right.
Yeah, first off, I want to say I appreciate being here. It's been great to hear what you guys have to say. And before I ask this first question, I just wanted to say what my goals were at Bucknell. So being underclassmen, I've had some great seniors that just graduated look up to, and that really gave me motivation to follow in their footsteps. So while I'm at Bucknell, I eventually want to be a team captain and help lead a team to a Patriot League championship. And even after that, my ultimate goal is to play in the professional level for as long as I can. So given that background or what my goals are, what advice would you give me or any of the players that are in our program today about the college baseball experience at Bucknell?
We'll start with you, Doug.
Oh, sorry about that. I guess a couple things that would come to mind is, and maybe the coaches aren't even allowed to say some of these things, but like for example, there's no days off. Like I was saying, some of the older guys were yelling at me to get in the cage every day and get in the weight room and, really take it, as a full commitment. Little things like that, just making sure that, you stay actually fully committed to the sport and academics and being able to balance them all. I know that's difficult for a lot of people. But once you find that balance and you're able to, juggle all those balls, I think that's when, any player is really able to hit their stride and kind of excel in both. That would be my primary, lesson.
That makes sense. I appreciate that.
Joe?
Yeah, so, for my perspective, kind of tying back to the last question too, I remember, I had the opportunity to play quite a bit my freshman year. And I remember at the end of the season when we lost in the playoffs, I just remember watching the seniors break down because their time was up, right? And I just remember like that hit me so hard where when I came back, the next year, it was just like, wow, like this is it. Like I'm not focusing on myself anymore. This is about the guys older than me. This is about my class and just trying to maximize our time here. So from a leadership perspective, I'd say, once you're able to break away from that, like, self viewpoint and really just start focusing on the team, that's when you're really going to hit your stride as a leader. And through that, what you're going to wind up doing is leading by example, right? So you're going to be ensuring that you're doing all the things that Doug was just talking about, all those little things, and you're going to grow a following from that, right? And, that's just the recipe of success right there, of doing the little things right, but kind of taking the focus off of yourself and on the team. And that's where you could really make an impact.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, basically piggyback off Joe, I think my senior year was especially interesting for us and motivational because coming in, the year before us, they'd won the championship. So as everybody we knew at Bucknell had won a championship in their 4 years except for us. So for us, it was that goal of we have to do it. And I think the biggest thing that we learned, and to piggyback a lot off Joe, is that you can't win a championship by yourself. You really do need the whole team coming together as one. We always heard the stories of Joe's grade when they won a championship, how they were really one unit. And I think that was the biggest thing where, 10 years down the road, if you're no longer playing baseball, whatever it is, but you won a championship together, you are still going to be so close with that team. And I think that's something that, really ties into how much it takes that you have to get everybody together. And then also in terms of, your own personal goals, whether, whatever it is, playing professional baseball, a lot of it is getting better day to day and getting better game to game. You have a great weapon in Knightsy who will help you and talk to you about things you've done wrong in the previous games. I used to watch a lot of film with Knights and go through at-bats and sort of understand, there's a lot of guys in the Patriot League that you're going to face over and over again. And by senior year, you're going to have their number and you're going to understand how to get kids out in your league because you face them so many times. I can tell you the number of kids in the league that I knew exactly what I wanted to throw because I've studied them so many times was truly helpful by senior year. So I think just trying to get better day by day, year by year is huge.
Okay, thank you for the insight.
Going last is tough because everyone takes all the good answers. And everything that I'm going to say has already pretty much been said, but I'll take I can word it slightly differently. Your team, it's really about the culture, right, that you can create on your team. I've been a part of a team with a really good culture that did really well, and a part of the team with a less good culture that didn't play as well, right? And that culture is developed from the inside. It's got to come from the players. It happens when you see people that are in the cage late night and you're like, all right, I'm going to join them because they're doing it, right? Or you're in the weight room and you're like, all right, I'm going to do an extra rep because he did an extra rep. And it's something that it's hard to quantify, but it starts at the player level. And when you have guys that are just working as hard as they can for each other and for the same goal, that's when teams are successful. And you'll have distractions. You'll have people on the team, I call them cancers, that will try and pull away from the team goal. But the most successful teams I've seen all have that culture from the bottom up that is driving them to work hard. And then from a personal standpoint, right, you'll get out of your Bucknell career what you put into it, right? I mean, it's never the harder you work, the less results you get. And like Connor said, Patriot League hitters are very easy to get out. You just got to do your homework and put in the work. Take care of your body. I probably didn't do that as much my freshman and sophomore year, but the older you get, the more your body starts to hurt. And Joey can tell you that. So take care of your body. Just do the little things, right?
Yeah, I agree with what you said about the culture. I think we had a great team culture this year. All the freshmen were welcomed in. And I'm sure John Paul and Tyler Winsig, they were our captains this year, and they really did a great job, as well as the rest of the upperclassmen, with really pushing us, encouraging us to do the right thing, and it definitely had a positive impact on the atmosphere.
Good to hear.
Great. Jeff, we'll come right back to you, and you go first so they don't take all the pictures. But you guys obviously had a lot of success and while you were here. What do you think some of the keys to success were? It could be athletically, individually, or team-wise.
Keys to success, is that what you said?
Yep.
Yeah, so I won't go too big into culture again, but that was one of them, right? The team that worked the hardest usually did the best. Two is, when you had seniors and juniors, even sophomores you could look up to, that you could follow. If you had a strong upper class that did the right thing and weren't pulling people away from the right thing and weren't being distracting, but were good people to look up to, those teams were generally the better teams, and we won a lot of big games and a lot of games with that type of dynamic.
Jeff, you had a 4.0 the entire Bucknell career.
Yeah.
How did that happen? What were the keys to success with that?
Yeah, I figured that would come up. I was trying to stay away from
and he's half embarrassed by it, but.
So that's not about being smart. That's about working hard, right? And managing your time efficiently. So yeah, if you can work ahead on your schoolwork and you can plan, you be, okay, this is due here. I need to start this now. And you can just be organized, and you got to make some decisions about, oh, I could go do this tonight, but I have a test tomorrow, or I have something this weekend. So it takes a lot of discipline, but it's mainly just work ethic, right? Work ethic was the only reason I did as well as I did in school. Didn't have nearly as much to do with actually being smart. And you can do really well at Bucknell if you just do your work. I mean, I'm sure, Joe and Connor, they'll tell you the same thing. If you just show up to class and do your work, you can be really successful in the classroom.
Well, thank you. Connor.
Yeah, I think sort of to get away from the team a little bit, one of the keys that I found, not just in college, but also outside of college, was to surround yourself with people that make you better. I think that's huge for Bucknell because we have so many kids that are, genuinely talented in so many areas, whether good friends with Jeff who got a 4.0. That's going to make me smarter. Like it just is. He's going to work hard. But the same thing around, I had plenty of times that in the morning on whether it was, one of the mornings a week we wanted to go, there was a 7 a.m. lift and 11 a.m. lift, and I really didn't want to get out of bed, but my 3 roommates were going to be in there. I wasn't going to miss that. And the same thing now applies where, you come home from work and you have your roommates working, you want to get after it too. It's just a situation where if you put people surrounding you that are bettering themselves, they're going to make you better. Where if you surround yourself with people that are, slacking off a little bit, you're more than likely to slack off. So I think the key is really to just identify those people in your life that are going to make you better and really latch onto them and sort of help them out and make yourselves better because, it's not all about, you can't do it alone. And a lot of us know this from Bucknell. A lot of us who've been successful in sports and outside of it have done it with the people around us and still have a lot of the same friends we had for all of college.
Like that. Joe?
Hard to follow up, huh? Yeah. No, I mean, so I guess what I do here is kind of reference back to our 2014 Patriot League championship team and kind of what I think made us successful. And we just got to a point where every game that we went out there, we kind of knew what was going to happen, right? It was Bryson was going to go out, he's going to give us 7, and he was going to keep them to 1 to 2 runs, if that. Weigel was going 9 to 18 innings. It didn't really matter. He was just going to keep throwing. Draich was going, and then we had a mix of X and Cassie on the back end, right? So it just got to this point where everyone had their job, everyone knew what everyone else's job was, and we all trusted each other to execute on that. And it's really just built on that camaraderie, right, that we developed and that sense of a unit. And it's not just the guys on the field, it was also the guys in the dugout, right? Some guys knew that they weren't going to get in potentially, but they were riling us up the whole time, and there were guys ready to pinch run if they had to pinch run, and guys ready to warm up pitchers in the bullpen if needed. There was just no selfishness whatsoever, and we kind of just had that common goal, and we just basically knew every time we were going to hit the field, there's just no chance we're going to lose, because everyone's going to execute on their job, and they all got each other's back.
For sure, and that team was really resilient. We had a couple of tough losses along the way, but we always bounced back. Gingy would punch or something like that and get the team back going, and that was one of my favorite things about that team, is just how resilient you guys were. Yeah. And, coming together as a team helps you do that for sure. Doug?
Well, I'll quote you, Coach Heather. Compete. I think for my group, especially the hitters, we were all so competitive with one another. We like I said earlier, we were brothers and best friends, so none of us wanted to, give anything to the next guy. So whether it was, me or Browse back and forth hitting home runs, or trying to beat Hanu in batting average or whatever it might have been, we were obviously there for each other, wanted the best for each other, but we were also trying to one up each other too. I think that was kind of made for an interesting dynamic where we were so supportive of each other, but we also were like little brother, big brothers. This situation, you're always trying to one up the next guy. I think that really helped everyone on the team. Everyone saw each other competing and fighting, and never giving an inch. And you saw that when one guy was fighting that hard, you had to fight just as hard. You wanted to prove just as much, and it kind of snowballed from there. That everyone was all in and really going after it.
Yeah, it definitely was a group that pushed each other to high limits, and that's a great point for sure. Let's get into kind of best memories of your time at Bucknell. Could be on the field, off the field. What are things that really stick out to you remember as some of your best memories at Bucknell? We'll go back with you, Dust.
So I don't know if any of you younger guys were coached by Coach Depew, maybe Joe, I don't know. But so he was a true legend in his own right. And one of my greatest memories was I had just come off like a ridiculous hot streak during the playoffs and was, just hitting the ball all over the place. And we were all warming up for practice, just kind of normal stuff. And Coach Depew wasn't there. We were like, where the heck is Depew? Like, what's going on here? You see him strolling in from right field. He's wearing like a full jersey, the socks raised up, like the hat on. He's like cruising in, and Coach Depew didn't move all that quickly. So we were like, what is he doing? He brought the whole team together, and he was wearing, my number was 26. He was wearing an old number 26 jersey, and he like ripped it off. And I used to wear this ridiculous like cut off sleeve thing. He had like the cut off sleeve thing underneath, and he was just like, in whatever commemoration of your great week, Doug. Like I needed to dress like my idol or something. He really like played it up, and it was so out of character. It just stuck with me, and it was just such an epic moment to see Coach Depew kind of out of character like that. It was really really wild. So I was honored by that, I guess, and it's something that definitely stands out in my Bucknell career.
For sure, and that was in the middle of the playoffs, and I think one of his great attributes was he knew how to take the pressure off the guys and remember that on. And, yeah, I can still see all the guys as hysterical as he was imitating you. That day. That was a fun memory for me. Thanks for bringing that up, Joey O.
Yeah, I'm not going to keep harping on the 2014 season. I must say, that experience of the dog pile after we won the championship and that whole time throughout the regionals, was just, it was life-changing. It was amazing. It just felt like, you kind of mission accomplished type thing and almost surreal. But, outside of that, what I would say is, kind of bringing it all the way back to, or all the way to the end of my time at Bucknell. So, we got knocked out of the playoffs, but we had some time before graduation, right? And it was just a lot of time spent with my teammates from my class, right? And our parents and some of the younger teammates. And I just remember like reflecting at that point of like, wow, like how life-changing the last 4 years here were, right? And how much it really just impacted me for the future and all the connections I made and the networks I developed. It was just like a really special moment for me just to realize like, how special a place Bucknell really is.
Connor.
Yeah, there's a ton of memories that come to mind from Bucknell, but I think the one that sticks out was my junior year. The playoff series at Navy was the most fun I think I've had on a baseball field in a long time. That season we really weren't ranked very high. Nobody thought anything of us. Joe's class had just graduated, Drake, all those guys. And to come in as the fourth place team and play number one Navy, who had cruised through the whole league the entire year. And, I pitched game one, gave up one run. We won the game. And Mike Castellani, who'd been sitting behind me, pushing me the entire year, walks up to me before the game starts and tells me I'm going to be better, which at that point I thought, get the hell out of here. You got a 9-inning game. You can't be better. And he goes out and throws a complete game shutout. And for that whole rest of the week was the team that was the most together I think I've ever been a part of a team, all living as the only people on campus, having the most amount of fun and having just this camaraderie of nobody can beat us right now. We are a complete unit. We want to be here. There was no talk of anything else. There was just these guys in front of me right now wanting to play this game. And everybody was pushing everybody to be the best they could. And I think that really separated us as sort of one of the best, not just teams I've ever been on, but sort of the most fun I've ever had playing baseball.
Yeah, that's always one of the best parts is that, finals are over, school's over, are here, and we're just, it's baseball and hanging out with your boys and getting ready to play big games. And it's always a lot of fun, I know, for our guys. So a great reward for all the hard work. Jeff.
Yeah, Connor took mine. But it's all right. I can talk about it a little more. That was the first weekend I threw 0 innings all year, and I was happy about it. So, that kind of gives you a feel. they just went out there and threw 2 complete games. So I had to get my bullpen on the bus. It's like, wow. But then that week, though, so we lived my sophomore year, Connor's junior year, we lived in the Mod City, and him and both Mikes and Kiefer, Chucky, Johnson, and then like Miles, Chris. Like I think there was maybe 12 of us that were in the mods, and we shared a mod, and we had a fire pit, like a fireplace in the middle. I don't think we were allowed to do that, but I guess
Nope.
I don't think anyone really cares in the mods. So we would grill out every night, sit by the fire. Like it was right next to the field, so we just went from the field to the mods, to the field to the mods, and like again that week with no school, nobody else on campus, that was probably the closest I felt with the team. So that would be mine as well. Sure.
Yeah, you make the playoffs, you get away with a lot more campus for sure. So we'll kick it to Tyler. You can come back with another question.
Yeah, so my second question pertains to life after playing when the career is over. And so what advice do you have about networking and finding the right job after Bucknell?
Do I start this?
Yeah, you're a networking fiend, so
Well, first
I'll go
off,
with you.
yeah, don't do investment banking. No, I would say, so when I was like in the recruiting process for life after college, I will say I was afraid to be like the annoying person who reached out to everyone, whether it's via LinkedIn or whatnot, but you can't be like that. Like Bucknell has a lot of resources and a lot of connections that you need to utilize. Never be afraid to reach out to any of us or anyone else that went to Bucknell, because there's a good chance they'll be more than happy to talk to you, help you out. I mean, Bucknell has a good community outside of college, and I wish I had taken advantage of it more, to be honest with you. So that's what I have for finding a job. And then for the actual job, you know, banking is I don't know. Life comes at you fast when you graduate college and then you go to the real world. Like in college, you can take like naps between classes or before practice. Like you can't do that in the real world. Like you just stare at a computer screen all day long. I don't want to sound like life's depressing after college. I know it's kind of coming off that way. There are a lot of good things too. But yeah, actually just listen to what I said about the recruiting and Bucknell's network. Pay attention to that. Yeah. All right.
Good thing I'm in the College of Arts and Sciences and not management, sounds like.
There you go.
Connor.
Yeah, I mean, I was College of Arts and Sciences as well. It ain't bad. But no, I mean, it's the same as Jeff. I think the biggest thing is just definitely don't be afraid to reach out to anybody, especially Bucknell baseball guys. I know, I've talked to a bunch of guys in the grades below me about sort of helping them look for stuff, whether, it's the company I'm at now or through other people I know. But I think the biggest thing is, we have so many kids that have done so well after Bucknell that take advantage of them 100%, Whether please don't go into banking like Jeff, it seems terrible, but you can come work at ESPN. It's a great time, and I think there's enough people that have sort of been all over the place, and we have enough guys that work in so many different areas that if you find something you are passionate about outside of baseball, definitely reach out to them beforehand. You don't have to wait until second semester senior year. You can start talking to them early about career paths and sort of how they got to where they are today. And what they looked for in a company, what they look for in a profession. I think that's the earlier you start, the better off you're going to be.
Okay, that's great to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, that I think what Jeff and Connor hit on is number one priority. It's utilizing the network that you have been handed to you by getting that offer from Bucknell, because it truly is special. And it always amazes me when you step out to the real world and you remember Bucknell that has maybe 3,300 students, how it feels like it has 100,000 kids that go to it, because everywhere you turn, there's Bucknellians working in all these different companies. It's absolutely crazy, So for such a small school, it has such a big reach. And two, what I would mention is, try your best to utilize the career fair. There are some phenomenal companies that come to that career fair, and they're all Bucknell alumni most of the time. And, you know, they do everything possible to try and get you in the company. I've actually been on the recruiting team for ExxonMobil for the last 3 years, and it's just incredible to see on our end how hard our team of alumni within the company work try and place anybody from Bucknell into the company. And we've done a great job over the last few years of increasing our number of interns and full hires, and actually, you know, holding true to our offers this year during the pandemic. So I think that's just a testament to, you know, Bucknellians really trying to help out other Bucknellians.
Doug?
I mean, I'll just add a quick thing that even outside of Bucknell, the Patriot League in general is great for networking. My current boss, his son went to Lafayette, so it was an immediate talking point. He saw my resume and knew the Patriot League, you know, and the rest is history in getting my current job. The other thing I would say is, you know, you're not married to the first job you get out of college. You can bounce around. You can try different positions and different roles in different companies, all those sort of things. I myself have wanted to stay in baseball right after school and work, you know, in baseball for a couple of years. And I went to a startup, and I went back to law school, and now I'm a lawyer. So I've had, you know, a handful of different things, and finding the right fit took a few years, and now I think I've you know, finally found it. But it wasn't the easiest process. So understanding that you're able to, you know, you're not married to anything. You can always bounce around and find new opportunities and, you know, get new jobs. I think that's important to realize.
Yeah, I agree with you there. For my foundation seminar, I had Professor Smyer. I'm not sure if any of you guys had him. I'm sure a couple of you may have, but he was talking about how just because you major in something doesn't mean you have to pursue that career after Bucknell. And there was a chart of all the different careers that are linked to certain majors. You wouldn't even think there's a connection between them. So I thought, I agree with you.
Sure.
All right, good deal. We'll go right back to you, Doug. This updates us on your personal life. You know, where do you live, career, family, all that type of stuff.
Yep. So I live in New York City. My wife was a softball player at Bucknell. We've been dating for 10 years or whatever, or dating together for 10 years and married for 3 years now. We have a dog named Bucky. Like I was saying before, I went back to law school. I graduated a couple of years ago, and now I do insurance defense law. I think kind of like Jeff was saying, it's not the most exciting thing. My profession's not the most exciting thing in the world, but you know, I'm happy that I'm doing it, and yeah, no real complaints here.
Yeah, Doug, you got to be the only guy that's the all-time home run leader, but his wife is a better hitter than he is. So.
I'll debate you on that anytime.
She definitely has a prettier swing, for sure.
That might be.
Joey O.
All right, so I actually just moved out of New York City. I was there for 4 years. And I just purchased my first home in Long Branch, New Jersey. So super excited. That happened on June 15th. Been working for ExxonMobil for the past 4 years, coming up on my 5th year. I'm a project manager working on environmental remediation projects for the company. And plan on hopping into a new role that involves commercial and claims for the company, just supporting our project manager. So a little bit of a different role, and kind of talking to what you said, Tyler. It's just, you know, I have a chemical engineering degree, but now I'm going to be working in claims. So it's just completely different.
Connor?
Yeah, I also live in New York City, which I used to hang out with Joe all the time, but apparently I never will again. He lives in Jersey. But no, I had a interesting path out of college. I was drafted, ended up getting hurt and leaving the Yankees, but now I'm back in sports and I work in the ad sales division for ESPN, which has been really fun. I've been, I think, a year now, been working here, and it's definitely the most interesting time in the world to work at ESPN because they canceled everything we do, which is sports. So it's been a crazy first year, but it's really fun. as you're going to hear from Jeff, who also lives in New York City, and you'd be surprised, not all of us only live in New York City, but enough do where Joe talks about it. You know, you always are going to run into kids. And for me, I still live with my 2 roommates from college. I've lived with Korchak now for, I think, 7 years. It's getting a little ridiculous at this point. But, yeah, no, I'm still living in New York City and working there and hoping to switch over from the account management side in ad sales to the planning side, which is back end, and sort of making the deals that are going to go towards college football season, if there ever is one again, I guess. But that's what I'm doing these days.
Very cool. Jeff.
Yeah. So as I touched on a little bit earlier, I graduated last year, started work a year ago yesterday. So I've been working for a year. I do investment banking at a firm called Imperial Capital. Mainly work sell side mergers and acquisitions, but also do debt and equity raises as well. I complained about it, but I knew what I was getting into, and I enjoy it a lot. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't be doing it. But I live in New York City, probably 15-minute walk from Hoose. If we have to go back to the city during this pandemic, I'm going to be staying at his apartment because I don't want to pay rent if we're not going to be in New York City. New York City rent is tough, but you'd be like surprised. Like, I feel like I see 20 to 30 Bucknell people every weekend in New York City. And New York City is huge. But there's probably like 15, 16 like people that the year above Joe down that live in the area. I guess Joe's leaving now, but yeah.
I'm an hour away. Like, I'm gonna be
an hour away is like
that's what they all say. Trust me, they all start leaving and they never come back. It's so sad.
Oh, no.
Gone.
Hey Jeff, do you miss the South, man? You leaving South Carolina, man?
Yeah, so I'm currently in my parents' basement in Charleston, and it has been the biggest like refresher ever. Like, I can take the boat out, I can go fishing. There's like sunshine and space and water, and yeah, no, I miss the South a ton. But I've been here for the last like 4 months, so I'm like kind of like okay with going back to this again. No rush, but yeah, New York City. So I'll say this: it was a culture shock, right? You go from, because you're from North Carolina, right, Tyler?
Yep, Charlotte.
Yeah, exactly. So I went from Charleston to Bucknell, and like Bucknell is definitely different, but it's still got its own like kind of like rural like vibe to it. And then going from like that to New York City has been like complete. Like, there were like little girls passing me in the street, like pushing me out of the way. Like, it's just a different like lifestyle that I'm like slowly getting used to. I don't think I'll ever be a city guy, but like, you know, Connor could probably attest to it. I've gotten better over the last year, but definitely a culture shock at first.
Yeah, you're moving to Jersey then. That's what you're saying.
Nope.
Yeah.
Jersey Joe.
Yeah. Jersey Joe.
I think that's one of the coolest things about Bucknell. Even as I travel, you know, people will always ask me if I'm wearing a Bucknell shirt or carrying a Bucknell bag. The connection they have and just the positive experiences so many people have. And it could be in sports, out of sports. You know, there's not many times that I'm in an airport that somebody come up to me and start talking about Bucknell if I'm wearing it. And it's just a cool place for sure. Jeff, we'll come back to you in terms of just what advice could you give me as the head coach of the program moving forward? Here's your shot to tell me what I should do forward.
It's tough, and I got to lead off with this too. This is when I want to go last. I think that what you did over the last year and a half or so has been really good. And what I mean by that is like kind of like, one, it's a reinforcement of like the culture and like the hard work ethic and everything, and maybe, you know, cutting out some cancers from the program, or just making sure that like everyone's on the same page and working to the same goal. Again, we've experienced it over the last couple of years, go back and forth, whether that was true or not. But like, you know, Joe said about his team that won, like there's a reason that team won a championship. And again, it starts with the team. And I think over the last like year or so that you've made the right decision and made a step in the right direction there. So just, I guess, kind of keeping that going would be my advice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think it's funny how often, because all of us live in New York City, we all hang out a lot, and the amount of conversation that goes about Bucknell baseball is always happening, especially when we are sitting there grumpy on Saturday mornings watching the live stream of Bucknell baseball beat UVA. That was a pretty good moment for all of us. But no, I think you can definitely tell with, Jeff and I were together for that one. It was fun. But I think the biggest thing that I saw was there's a huge discrepancy between the team that we had and me and Jeff talked about was our favorite weekend, which was all together and at that place. And there's my senior year, especially, and I think from what I've learned from Jeff and Chris talking to them, is I think there was a change made after that. Was one of the issues was if we had that same scenario where we win the first weekend and then we have that week, I don't think we're all together. And I think that's one of the things that I don't necessarily know how you can catch it right away, but one of the things that scared me the most about that team is I think it was divided. And I think if we had that weekend, you would have had some kids off and like a decent amount off and they're doing their own things, where some of us were here, where you really do need to all be together. So I think, making sure your team is clicking throughout the year is going to be the biggest thing, and making sure there's not that big divide, which it seems like, we're doing the right thing step there. And we've had a lot of programs that have been extremely successful and like that. And I think it only takes a few kids sometimes to hurt a team. And especially, whether it's making sure that cutting it early on, if you see kids start to separate and try to do things where we have, it's not necessarily all just about baseball. We have a lot of team stuff that we do together off the field, and making sure that's still happening to really get that camaraderie is huge for us, because at the end of the day, we do all want to be best friends. And the only way to be a successful team is if you're all working together.
I like it. Thank you. Joe?
I think Jeff mentioned something similar to this, but as you get older, you start to your body starts to age a little bit, right? And if you don't get adequate sleep, you feel a little slower in the morning. And if you wind up getting McDonald's at 10 p.m., you feel terrible the next day. But when you're in college, your body can kind of handle that. But the issue is that it actually creates more of an impact on you than you think, right? So for me, I think what I wish I understood a little bit more is really that care of my body in my time at Bucknell, right? So from a nutrition standpoint, but also the sleep aspect, how important sleep is. And, it's definitely a hard nugget to try and, get after, just because of, you have the classroom issues and everything else outside of the field. But, I think it's just something to think about. It's just like, the health side of it. I think maybe step one might be taking out Golden Corral on road trips.
Great.
No early morning conditioners and no
There's salad at Golden Corral.
Hopefully I ate it all.
No, good. I love that. Yeah.
So one thing I would say is, again, Coach Depew, was the head coach when I was there, and you were an assistant coach, Coach Heather, that all the coaches in the league, except basically for Coach Depew, were these, these really tough, mean, kind of like, big guys. Like there were the two military schools, obviously. I think Lafayette's coach was in the military. Holy Cross's coach was kind of a tough guy, put it nicely. And then Coach Depew was just sort of mild-mannered. He would let things flow a little bit more. And for someone like me, I would thrive under, someone like Coach Depew rather than the more, like I said, militaristic approach. I needed to goof around with Rob Scott in the dugout and kind of throw submarine pitches during warm-ups and kind of screw around where that stuff wouldn't fly nearly as much. And just having that loose kind of attitude, being able to go out there and know that you were able to just sort of let it fly, kind of be you. That was something that was important to me when I was recruited, and then all the way through college. I really think it brought out the best in my playing as well. So I guess my one piece of advice would be, every player, I guess, a little bit different, but to, appreciate kind of what will bring out the best in every player.
Yeah, I think Gene was definitely great at that and pressing the right buttons. Still learning on that, for sure. And no, great advice, all you guys. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me. I'll let Tyler ask the last one. We've got about time for one more, so we'll go with Doug here, and Tyler, go ahead and ask your last one.
Yeah, that was a dangerous question you asked, Coach Tyler, but the guy did it well. Jeff and Connor, you guys saved yourselves from some cut 60s with nights.
It's Knightsy that makes them run in there.
My last question for you guys was, who's the teammate you admired the most throughout your career at Bucknell, and why is that?
The teammate I admired most, and I hope he doesn't watch this so I don't have to admit it, I would say would be Andy Brous. He, like I was saying earlier, he was a year older than me, and to this day is still one of my best friends in my wedding and everything else. Both on and off the field, he was I think a business and history major. I was a history major, political science. We had a lot of classes together. And then on the field, we were both trying to run up each other, like I was saying before, trying to one up each other with home runs and everything. And he showed me how to do it. So I respect and appreciate Andy a lot, even though, like I said, I hope he doesn't watch this, so I don't have to admit that to his face right now.
Oh, he will. About it. Joe.
So I'm gonna have to go with my classmate Andrew Andrachik, and I knew it was gonna be Connor's, but he was just calm mannered, and it didn't matter how big or small the situation was. You just could never tell with him, and he was on, and it didn't matter. He could have gave up the furthest home run you've ever seen. Get the ball, go right back at it. And he pitched in some big situations, got us out of a lot of tough situations and won us a lot of things. And he was just so reliable. You knew exactly what you were going to get out of him every single time he came out. And somehow he had a rubber arm too. He never got hurt, which was crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Connor?
Yeah, I mean, Joe kind of stole mine, so I can do a little bit too, but I definitely think for the position I ended up being in, which is being the game one starter at Bucknell, Drake was the perfect guy to sit behind for 2 years and learn from, because of what Joe said. He was the guy that nothing ever fazed. And in high school especially, and early in my career, I was very much affected by how my outcome of the game was. I was a guy who, if I gave up that long home run, I was pissed. It would affect the next couple batters until I calmed myself down. So learning from somebody who didn't matter if it was off the field, on the field, whatever was going on, when he got between those lines, it was his game and he never showed any emotion. But also, he was one of the guys that my freshman year, I'd never heard it happen. People would joke about how good he was to his face, and he didn't get a hot head about it. He never faltered. It was just like, oh, Drake's just pitching today? Yeah, we're going to win. And he won. He did every time. And I think it was that situation where he was just the guy who you looked up to so much because of what he became and how he held his composure every game. But the other one would be, and Joe, you're not allowed to tell him, would be Dan Keller. Dan was a guy who, was never the number one pitcher, but my freshman year, I came in after having, elbow surgery and couldn't play, and Dan had also just had wrist surgery. And for a junior who was very established on the team to sort of take me under and go on runs with me every day and teach me how to, be the injured guy on the team. I couldn't throw, I couldn't really work out, but I could still get work done with Dan every day. And for him to do that to a complete stranger freshman was sort of something that was super big to me in my career. And one of the things that I look forward to, and I think people could do that for everybody. If there's freshmen that aren't playing, there's always something you can do. And for a guy established to do that, for me, was huge.
Very cool. Jeff?
Yeah, I'll split it into two categories here. The first one being on the field play, who I admired. And when I was a freshman, senior year, or Drake was a senior, so Drake is on there. Cassidy was a sophomore, or was a junior, so Mike Castellan, he's on there. And Hoose was a sophomore, so Hoose is on there as well. And those were just three competitors. That's kind of no matter what, they would compete. And I don't know if you've probably watched Mike Castellani pitch before, Tyler. I feel like you've been around the program for in years, even though you're only a sophomore. I feel like I met you when you were like a freshman in high school. But Castellani would be someone, again, he would compete. Him and Hoose would compete all the time. I would compete with them when I was a sophomore and Cassie was a senior. And then I would compete with Hoose when I was a junior and he was a senior. It wasn't ever about the other teams. It was about competing with each other in games, which is good, which is fun, which makes you your best. So that's from a like competitive standpoint. And then from just being like a true teammate standpoint, again, nobody tell him, but Christian, who is Christian Taylor, my roommate, he had a very, unfortunate career where he kept getting hurt, one shoulder surgery after another, like just couldn't ever stay healthy. But that didn't ever change his attitude. And I remember so senior year, he was voted a captain, right? And he didn't even play his senior year and he knew he wasn't going to play, but he's still at every practice pushing people to get better, seeing how he could help, catching bullpens, out there pushing people, conditioning, hitting ground balls, like finding a way. And he knew he couldn't play the whole time. So to me, like that's what a good teammate is. So yeah.
For sure, and you're a legend when you pitcher, you get that senior at bat, and Christian got on base, threw a walk, and one of the happiest that team had for sure. Just watching him smile as big as he was when he went up there. And Jeff, you were a big part of that. You were lobbying for him. Most people would lobby for themselves to get the at bat. I know Connor did from time to time.
Yep.
But Jeff lobbied for Christian to get it, and pretty cool deal to watch that happen. But thank you guys. This was awesome. You guys did a great job and a lot of good insight, and I learned a lot about you too. And it's great to hear those things again and remember all those great times. And I really enjoyed coaching all you guys. Fun group of guys coaching, part of some great teams, and just appreciate everything you do for the program. And let's keep in touch. Okay, Todd, and you can wrap it up.
Yeah, thanks, Coach. Guys, great job. Another great session. Great to hear all the stories, and it's easy to see why those of you guys that did play together, why your teams were good. You're also close still to this day, and even though one of you moved out of the city, but great. It's not that far away, Joe. But to Tyler, good luck to you this season. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that you guys will be out there this spring and that things are going to change and get better, and you guys are going to have a season, and you're going to have a good one. And I know if you guys do get out on the field, that the guys that are on this call are all going to try and probably get back for a game or two. The Bucknell alums really support their program. For those of you that watch at home tonight, I want to thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. And to everybody else, go Bison.